He was considered one of the most accomplished sports stars of a generation, winning the Tour de France 7 times in a row. But Lance Armstrong always denied he was a cheat until he made this confession to Oprah Winfrey in a dramatic interview back in 2013.
Yes or no? In all 7 of your Tour de France victories, did you ever take banned substances or blood dope?
Yes.
In your opinion, was it humanly possible to win the Tour de France without doping 7 times in a row?
Not in my opinion.
Well, since making that shocking admission, the US government has pursued Lance Armstrong for the millions in sponsorship money that he accepted from the US Postal Service whilst knowingly cheating. And a federal judge has now given the go-ahead for a £79 million lawsuit to be brought against the disgraced cyclist.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of money, isn't it? We're joined now by the attorney, Brianne DeSellier, who's joining us from Florida this morning. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. And we know this has been handed down by the federal judge overnight. Lance Armstrong had done his best to block this. How significant is it that it's now come through?
I think it's pretty significant. I mean, effectively, what the court's ruling did was it overruled these prior motions to dismiss that were filed by Lance Armstrong. And I'm not surprised by it. I agree with it. I think that it's technically and procedurally the right answer legally. Because effectively, if you think about it this way, what Lance Armstrong was asking the court to do was to decide a $100 million lawsuit with really no development of the facts and without giving it to a jury. So again, this is probably the right result procedurally. I don't think the case could have been decided this early in the factual development stage. Now, relative to the procedural aspects of the case was actually filed under what's called the False Claims Act, which is a law that allows for liability against individuals or entities that effectively defraud the United States government. So obviously, the United States Postal Service is an agency of the government, and so that's why we have the case postured this way. And, the interesting thing about this case is the government seems to be bringing this on an implied fraud theory. So what they're saying is that in this sponsorship agreement that the government had in place with Lance Armstrong during these years, there was this condition, and it was that basically no use of illegal substances. So what the government's lawsuit is effectively saying is that by using these banned substances, Lance Armstrong effectively fraudulently induced the government to pay the money under the sponsorship agreements. Now, substantively,
has he actually got the $79 million to pay, or is this as much about the government being seen to have their pound of flesh and, let everyone know that people can't get away with this? Because presumably the case is going to cost a lot to stage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. The U.S. government is very strategic, I think, in the cases that it does choose to prosecute. This might be less about Lance Armstrong and more about sending a message to, other people, whether they're athletes that are using similar substances or whether they're just other parties that might have various agreements in place with the federal government. In terms of does he have the 79 pounds? We can't know. But the interesting thing about this case is that I think that's where the government's case is going to run into problems, is on the damage piece, because here's the thing. The damages are measured by the amount that was paid over what would have been paid if the government had known the true facts. I'm not sure that there are really $100 million of damages here. So I think what's going to happen is that when they get to the damage phase of the trial, it's probably going to end up being much, much less than what's being asked for at this point. Relative to whether he has it or not, I don't know. We can't know what assets he has and how he has them structured, but you're onto something there, because a court judgment is only as good as the defendant's ability to satisfy it. So if he either does not have the money or if he has his wealth structured in a way that the court can't reach it, then even if we get the $100 million or 79-pound judgment, it's really not worth it all.
And in a word, could he go to jail if he doesn't have the money?
So this is a civil case, but he certainly could go to jail, be held in contempt of court is what they would call it. And I think that's highly unlikely, but it's a technical possibility.
OK, well, it's bound to be a fascinating case, isn't it? Brianne DeSellier, thanks very much for joining us. His defence, he said that USPS suffered no damages and received more in value than it paid. But it's if it does go forward, then it's certainly going to be some...
they got at the time, I guess.
Some interesting details will come out, no doubt.